Welcome to the Cyber Funnel Podcast, brought to you by Amplifyed, where we feature the top minds in cybersecurity.
Welcome to the Cyber Funnel Podcast, where we're lifting the brands and names across the cybersecurity industry. I'm your host, Thorne Compton, and some of my great past conversations include AI adoption extraordinaire Tom Baker and Amplified founder and president Scott Johnson. Today, I have the pleasure to welcome Melissa Goldberger into the Cyber Funnel. How are you today, Melissa?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for this.
I'm very excited too. This is going to be an in-depth conversation. I'm very excited about this, what we're going to be getting into today.
Great. Yeah, I like it.
Of course, this episode is brought to you by Amplified, the SEO and GEO agency for cybersecurity companies. Amplified serves cybersecurity marketing teams by driving more leads from Google and AI search. We handle all the heavy lifting and know the exact levers to pull to get you more SQLs. Learn more at amplified.io. That's AMPLIFYED.io. All right. And like I said, I have Melissa Goldberger joining me in the Cyber Funnel today. Melissa has tons of experience as a 5-time CMO for multiple cybersecurity companies and has really seen the shift in marketing efforts firsthand over the last, 6 or 7 years. Very excited to get into our discussion today, Melissa.
I am too. Wow, it just feels old when we talk about all the shifts. But
I had to resist saying, in the last decade, and I was like, I'm not going to do that to her. We're going to say 6 years. 6 years. That's not so bad.
6 years, great. Yeah, I've been doing this. I'm 24. I'm still 24. It's great.
Precisely. We're all still 24. We're all still 29, and
29. Yes.
Okay. Hey, before we get started, actually, we're going to hit you with the lightning round. I always like to kind of get to know the guests a little bit. I have 2 great questions for you today. And the first one, I know you're actually about to head off a little bit, but as someone who lives in Aruba, what is your preferred vacation destination?
Oh, gosh. I mean, our preferred usually somewhere in Europe. We're always kind of craving just the culture and kind of going around. And one thing that's interesting about Aruba, being a small island, you don't get just like a lot of fresh food.
Right. It was interesting.
Fish, but you don't have fresh vegetables, things like that. Everything has to be imported. So it's just something about being able to go and kind of eat more farm to table and be there. And it's just different pace than in the States, because we're always there in the States for work or just quick family vacation and family trips. So we head out. We're going to head to Barcelona in Greece tomorrow. So super excited. And then if we want quick jaunts, we go to South America. A lot of times we go to Colombia. It's really nice. And Panama City is chef's kiss. It's really up and coming, and you'll see a lot of tourism exploding there in the next few years.
It's funny. I live here in the middle of Missouri. My wife is the daughter of a farmer and great granddaughter of a farmer. So I'm so used to really good produce but we're in the middle of Missouri. I don't get great fish, and I take that for granted. And I'm like, oh, but where's my good shrimp? Because I'm from the Houston area originally, and I guess you always want what you don't have around, right?
Right. Like I get a great piece of wahoo. Like when am I having wahoo in the States here? Like that's what I had for dinner the other day, and shrimp literally like this with the heads on them. So I, make you a little jealous, but like a good tomato, like sometimes like I would like a nice avocado at lunch.
Right.
So you definitely do a lot of that, but it's okay. You become friends with the freezer and the air fryer, and just a lot of frozen vegetables in this house.
Those are old friends of mine. I absolutely get you. Okay. I'm going to hit you with one more. What was the last book you read?
Oh God, Hunting Wives.
Hey, there are my wife 2 years ago, she watched it, but then she was just super into like all that romance novel. She read like 300 books over an entire year, just because they're just easy to read things. So no judgment here. That sounds fun. Did you enjoy it?
I did. Well, I had watched a series, and then I was like, I wanted to see how the book was different. So I do usually kind of balance that with the business book, and the business book was the Let Them. I don't so into that. I don't like Let Them theory by Mel Robbins, but to try and balance that. But the Hunter, it was good. It was definitely it's fun. And actually for the plane, I think I just got the one on Epstein that's written by Virginia. Yeah. So that's my next one.
That's just a little light reading. So
a little light read, yeah.
It's funny. I actually do the exact same too. Like I have a whole library I kind of keep up here, and I've got some Atomic Habits, and I've got Unreasonable Hospitality. But then right next to it, I've got Lord of the Rings and Brandon Sanderson.
You got to balance it. There will be a business book coming in. I think I'm going to do Crossing the Chasm next. Chasm.
Oh.
How I say that next. I did it years ago. I want to bring that back in. So there's always something coming back in.
Always got to be something coming. I love that.
That's it.
Hey, speaking of always something coming, so nothing has changed in the cybersecurity marketing or cybersecurity as a whole in the last 6 years since COVID and all that, right? There's nothing always something coming, right?
Yeah, no, nothing's changed at all, right? Let's say, pre-COVID, I'll never forget, it was events. Well, now it's back. It's old is new again. It's full circle. Right. It was pre-COVID. It was events. And that's actually how I landed in cyber marketing. Ironically, I was working 451 Research. I ran an events business line, and doing all that, went to another company, Argyle, running $100 million in business on events a year. But then also they were married with the digital side, and how do you create that integrated motion? And when COVID hit, my former CEO at Argyle was at Capsulate, which is a cyber company, and their CMO had just moved on, and he's like, we need someone who's going to take us. They didn't know how to handle the COVID pivot. Like, how are we going to build demand? Right. And that's when he called me. He's like, Goldberger. He's like, I have a role for you. I need your help. I need you to come in. I'm like, I know nothing about cyber. I knew how to sell to the CISO. We were doing that. We had CISO events and everything in Argyle. He's like, you worked for 451 Research, you've done all this. I said, it's just different. Like, I have to get into technology. I said, come try it, come meet us if you like us. And somehow the board, everybody kind of thought I was a fit, but it really worked out. We built an entire digital motion, obviously investments in SEO at the time. The three key things you were doing were webinars, SDR investment, and SEO, and obviously surrounded by PPC and paid, and which all that now today I'd probably say is dead. Not the SEO side, but some of the PPC. And so I just think it was such a rapid change that we had to make. And then coming back out of it was so interesting, because then we sold on and moved on from Capsulate. We sold to Sophos. And then when I entered SafeBreach, it was just coming back out. So it was straddling that. How do we safely enter the event space again? And what do we do? But you still needed that digital surround sound. So it was almost like all this activity was coming at you. And by then, everybody was getting sick of the SDR motions, all the outreach. Nobody was reading your emails anymore. So definitely interesting phases of what we've seen. And then trying to sell it, the ICP just kept shifting, because I was selling we were selling cloud workload protection platforms. It was different, or CNAP now, I think is where, not I think, it's CNAP. And it was just, what is that? Why do we need that? Like, security is known to lag so behind the tech. And now today, I feel like security is definitely on par with tech, but I will definitely say it was definitely an interesting transition to see that. And because everything was so much harder to deploy, you didn't have as much agentless products and things like that. So it's definitely, the role's gotten harder and easier in different ways.
It's actually a really good way to put it, because if you really look at, I guess the big major developments in specifically cybersecurity over the last 6 years, cloud, and then AI, agentless or agents, and all that fun stuff. It really is an interesting updates. It's like almost modernization, but like you said, it's modernization of stuff that has always been best practices. It's just kind of changing the way people are doing it, right?
Yeah, but definitely for the security buyer, it was definitely different, because how they had to modernize, what they had to do, which teams they had to rely on. And at that time, now I'm even, when I was at my 451 days, cloud was new. We had research categories that we built the surveys and the events around. And at the time, they were storage, networking, desktop virtualization is what it was called. Yeah. Cloud was our newest section.
Yeah.
I was there for 5 years, and that section came out in year 4. I remember when we brought on that analyst, it was such a big, security was actually always there, which was great, but they weren't talking about that. They were talking much more around storage and different areas. So it is definitely interesting to see the evolution. And then even when I got to Capsule 8, who was my buyer? You didn't have like product security teams even. You didn't have, you either went to like DevOps or the CISO for us, and there were companies having cloud center of excellence and things like that. So it was definitely like unique in figuring out where we were going to be. And I think a lot of companies still struggle with that. Now it's who's owning kind of the AI mandates, what's actually the business and all of that. So we're seeing kind of that same thing happen again. But at the end of the day, I think AI in cyber, it's just going to be table stakes. I've been saying this for a year when, you know, even at certain companies I've been talking to, I always said it's not a separate standalone product. It just is part of your product. And that's going to be the expectation, right? Like today I logged into LinkedIn and even they have now a whole beta on. It was just crazy to see that, like of just how to look for something. And it was just a completely different view because it's now all underpinned. And I think that's going to be the expectation in security as well.
Well, it's kind of like what happened with cloud, because it's like it felt like there was a good year and a half. Only thing anybody wanted to talk about was cloud. And then everybody went, wait, we still have all this on-prem stuff too. So then that's where hybrid came from. And nobody was talking about hybrid. You know, I feel like a similar thing is going to happen with AI. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it is. I think there's definitely going to be a similar thing. I think with cloud, the unique thing that happened too was COVID, right? Yeah. Everybody had to move.
Everyone went out
so fast. You were still on-prem, right? Some companies had hybrid, you know, clouds. And even that was a big selling proposition when we were at Capsule 8, was that we were able to help you modernize over to cloud without impacting your on-prem capabilities. But yeah, I think that's going to be the same thing with AI, is that now we're going to have to figure out how to kind of mesh this all in and go back. I think everything rotates. Like even today, I was joking. The last week, you see everybody like, we've been accepted to Anthropic, Claude, blah, blah, blah. Every company's putting this out. Does anybody remember what happened 2 years ago with CISA and Secure by Design? Everybody signed that. What happened to that pledge?
Right.
Where is that? Like, nobody's talking about these things. And granted, Anthropic's a little bit different than CISA because of the political ramifications, but still, there is this, and I think there are just these waves and everybody jumps on them and is like, oh my God, I have to do this. And so I think that's where we are. But I think, you know, in the AI area, I think it's, as long, you know, companies are going to be careful and they'll deploy. And the irony is these aren't new conversations. Like 5 years ago, I was having this at SafeBreach, but it was interesting. I was with a large bank and they said, no way would they ever enable AI or automated remediation.
Right.
Never. That same bank I know is a prospect for my past company. And that's all the stuff they're looking at.
Yeah. It is very funny that, because again, the slow adopters do eventually adopt. That's just kind of, eventually you have to adopt or die. And like, I think at this point we are long enough into AI to know it's not going to be a fad. It's going to be around. But like, that's the thing is like LLMs, it's one of the dirty little secrets I like to talk about. It's like LLMs, they are not 3 years old. LLMs have been around for years, for at least a decade. It's just the use of them has really changed. And really, like, you know, looking at the last decade, how have things changed for you as a cybersecurity marketer?
Oh my God. I mean, gone are the days of playbooks. Like I used to go in and, you know, take the same playbook, apply it, and have the same success. Can't do that anymore. And I wouldn't even try and sell that. And it's funny because when I was hired into my last role, literally in the interview process, like, can you just show me what was your playbook at X company? And, you know, of course I showed it, but I said, you know, when I get here, it's going to be different. Like every company now is so different, unique, and you can't do that. And you have to understand where the buyers, what motivates them, what's that problem that they have. That hasn't changed, but which channels are going to work for those buyers in that tech, that is going to change, and it's going to consistently evolve. And gone are the days I've taught, and I don't know if you've seen this with your other clients, but like inbound, that's a big thing. Inbound has dropped for everybody, which is so bizarre to me, because why would that change you wanting to request? You still want the demo at the end of the day, regardless if I have an ad, you met me in an event. But no, because buyers are able to do so much more research before they even get to thinking, I want to deal with a salesperson. They don't want to deal with a sales rep anymore. And you have to find that, you know, way of talking to them and finding them earlier and getting them to consistently touch and feel your products. And it's a shame because, you know, I think all marketers are in the same pressure boat of where are my inbound numbers? And you can't explain that, you know, easily to a CEO and say, everything's just changed.
Different people. I mean, 5 years ago, you put up a white paper, I would tell you, hey, gate that. Don't just give it away for free. Make someone give you the thing. Now it doesn't matter if you gate it. The bot's still going to crawl it. They're still going to get the information from you. So at this point, give it away. Give as much value as you can.
Exactly. And that's the hard, and that's what I don't think anybody understands. And then what's even gotten harder, right, is capturing the intent data below it, because you use these people to capture those signals. I think I read an article the other day about like marketers not using sixth sense as much.
Yeah.
Or intent, I build my own intent engines. I used a different one. And then I always build on first party data, but getting there are changes in the cookie settings. People aren't accepting them. That, and I don't even accept them. We don't pick up phones anymore. So it's the same thing of like gating to ungate. You have to just give it there, and you have to understand that the process takes time. And I think the other thing is there's been this, and I think it's a great shift in that we're starting to apply more consumer-driven strategies in B2B marketing in how we approach people. But it still has to be honest. It still has to tell a validated story. I think obviously storytelling is huge, right? We talk a lot about that. But I think it still has to be humanized. You can't, and I see so many companies still doing this. Just because you have a great design doesn't mean your company is going to sell. It is still that story and that message. And are you resonating? Are you touching at my pain? Can you solve my problem?
Yep.
So I know I've gone full circle into a lot of directions, but so much to cover.
You're perfect. I'm still working on the kinks of how I want to do this, but I'm just going to just do it outright. That you said the word intent, and that's our word of the day. So we're going to go full PB Herman Playhouse. Just
intent. I love intent. No, you start. I'm just kind of like just riffing. I don't know.
Your intent is so important though, because like if you're not speaking to somebody, then you're not speaking to anybody right now.
Exactly. And what is now going back to where AI comes in, especially for a marketer now, taking that intent data and using that in a meaningful way. And I think what's happening is you have two sets of playbooks. You do have the people who are using AI and are like, I'm just going to spam everyone and I'm going to build all these outreach methods and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to cringe because I'm like, also you're going to hurt your infrastructure. You're going to all those things still happen. But those who use intent accurately and can build those signals, get their reps giving the knowledge, building the ad system that can then provide that quality segmented. That's an old term. We used to use segmentation. Right? Personalization and segmentation. Now we just use fancier terms, but now you can provide that. I think we used to call them PURLs back in the day. So like you build those out. I was like fancy, but now you can build that kind of segmented experience, that unique personalized experience as a marketer, but then the rep can have their cadence. They can work with their SDR, and you can even bring it down to gifting. There is so much that you can do with that intent and that intelligence layer. And then even talking to the customer about their pain, making, and also not wasting your own time as a company. I've seen so many companies do bad POCs or POVs, and it's like, you just wasted, you know how much money you wasted on that? Yeah. So I think that's where especially AI is making us, and that intent is so important, and understanding the story and the keywords to get them there.
And the keywords to get them, and reverse engineer your prompts. Find out what those people are talking about in AI. But as I like to say all the time, if you want to get in front of somebody's eyes, put yourself in front of somebody's eyes. Don't expect them to try to find you. You find them,
And that's what actually I'm loving, right, about like search and how it's changed and where we can go. And it's just having those shifts and understanding those terms of, I mean, to me, when you find that one term, because it's listening hard, it's all these categories are crowded and what they talk about. And it's like, even listen, I've been through CNAP, ASPM, exposure, unified exposure, like every acronym on the block. People don't search for an acronym, they search for their problem. And so finding that, and when you nail that and you see that traffic coming in and that bringing that inbound in, as a marketer, that's gold.
And what's really interesting is to really accomplish that as the marketer, you have to understand your product. And I feel like that comes down to that relationship you have with the security team, with the people that are doing it, even with the CISO. What is that relationship between a CMO and a CISO like, and how important is it for it to be kind of in lockstep?
I think it's really important. I think it goes across the entire organization, right? Like you said, it's funny. I just was on, I was in an interview the other day, and it was with the CPO or CTO of the company.
Yeah.
And he said,
CTO.
was, God, you're asking a lot of questions that a VP of product would ask me. Why are you asking me those? And I said, because if I'm not in lockstep and understand, how am I going to market your product? And the same comes with the CISO. Like, I start my day listening to 3 to 5 gong calls that happen to my buyers that are CISOs. But then also when I have an internal CISO, I take that data and talk to them and ask them, is this what you feel and see in the market? And 9 out of 10 times it does. I don't, in my last job, didn't have a CISO internally, but I had one in my previous role where I would still call him. And also on top of that, you leveraging him as a marketer for content, for keywords, and to just get into the mind. I mean, I'm really blessed because I believe that solid vendors built on communities, and you build your advocates through your customers. And I've had really great sets of customers over the years that, I can call on and say, what do you think of this? Like, even as I look for jobs, I ask them to evaluate products with me and tell me, do you think this is a winning product? And that's really lucky. And I think it's having those relationships. And it's just speaking their language. Like, it is really funny though, and I'm struggling with this myself as a marketer I love like big brand and story, and I want to do all the fun things. And I reached out to 10 different CISOs in my network, and I said, what makes you want to buy? And they just said, a clean, honest, validated story. I don't need the bells and whistles. You can show me a white web page,
right?
But your message is what's going to matter to me. And I was like, wow, that was, and they all said it. I said, design doesn't play a different, no.
Nope. It's what are you saying? How are you telling it? Yep. I completely agree. You brought up community a lot. I'm curious. I always love to, especially people in your realm. Who are some people that you look back on? You're like, those were great mentors for me, or those are people that helped me kind of get to the space that I am and help me learn and become who I am today.
Oh my God. The first one's going to sound so cliche, but as a cyber marketer, it's Steve Katz. He is the original CISO. He was on my board at Capsule 8, and he literally, one of my sales reps was like, Melissa, you do not know how to sell to a CISO. Like, I knew all the channels, right? I said, I came in and knew the channel, but the messaging, I was like, talking about, I'm great, built rooms with CISOs. And Suzanne, I'll never forget her. She was in sales, Suzanne Desmond, amazing. And she introduces me to Steve, who was later, again, one of our advisors. But he's like, so what, Melissa? So what? And we met every single week until we got acquired for me to test the messaging. Him, and there was another woman on my company. She was VP of product, Kelly Shortridge. I haven't talked to her in years. I should probably reach out to her. Kelly, if you see this, she just absolutely amazing, because she wanted to make sure I kept it grounded. Like, she was that person who was like, she used to actually publish a blog of marketing buzzword bingo. So that every time I write something, I get an email from Kelly. Like, when I was 8, I was like, oh no. So really her. And then I would say, even from just a business perspective, my CEO from Argyle, who brought me into Cyber, Scott, truly makes CEO. Capsule was just like the dream experience with that team. And then the team at SafeBreach as well, the head of research, like, again, taught me so much about the intricacies of cyber. What I taught them too is like, it's great if you're writing this, but people need to see it. So my favorite email was ever over Thanksgiving. We got him placed, and it was the first time. And before you can buy placements, we were not buying them. Was Bleeping Computer. We had his research. He's like, oh my God, like, that's what And then they became little rock stars. I call them my monsters. Yeah. But just truly all of those, and then. Yeah. And of course, my first boss, she wasn't in cyber, but she taught me to be tough and not take anyone's crap. So I have to say I'm very blessed. And I believe in passing that forward too. I think one of the things I'm the most proud of is the teams that have reported to me. And even if I've had to make hard decisions, mentoring and guiding them through those decisions that we've had to make as a company and just being there for them. People remember how you leave a company. And so for me, that was really important.
Yeah, always go off on a good note. I was taught that a long time ago. It's like, even if you're leaving, even if you're not happy with it. I've left places that I'm a burnt out former journalist that left newspapers. I still left. You leave in a good way, and you build that relationships.
Exactly. And even when you're parting ways with the employee too, make sure the employee has a good experience on their way out, like that they feel that they were heard and respected the whole way through. So and that's just, again, I'm blessed though. And thanks for that question, because it really does make me think how lucky I really am.
The amount of times that I get that from people that are just like, well, I hadn't thought about this person in years, and I'm happy that you asked that. This is why we do what we do here, Melissa.
I love it. No, and actually, so I'm also in this little shameless plug, like I'm blessed, we talk about mentors, but I just had the privilege of working with an amazing group of CISOs as we were building our docuseries, Holding the Line. And I had the privilege 3 weeks ago, I was in New York, and we hosted a dinner, and just to kind of like be with them and to talk to them and just listen and be vulnerable. And I was being vulnerable as a CMO, not even talking about security, but it just, I don't want to be cliche, but it's just, I've learned so much, and I learned so much from them and their pressure and what they have to deal with and to go through it. Just, I don't know. I think that's where the best marketing happens too.
I couldn't.
No AI is going to replace that.
No, never. No, the human touch is always going to be a big thing. Hey, Melissa, this has been great. I've got one more question for you, but before I get to it, I want to give you space real quick. Tell the listeners where to find you.
Oh, where can you find me? You can find me on LinkedIn. It is under Melissa, and actually it's Yahre Goldberger. So YAHRE GOLDBERGER. It's the best way to find me.
Absolutely. Look her up. She's fantastic. You'll find a lot of great things there. The final question I have for you, Melissa, what is the biggest challenge facing CMOs and cybersecurity marketing teams right now?
Oh my gosh. I think, I don't want to say AI, as it's not the AI, it's all the effects of it. The reduced budget, the cutback staff, the CEOs who think they can build things without a person, or you don't need that agency or whatever anymore because AI can do it, and it can't. No. They are the principles that are still needed there. Can we be more efficient, more effective? Yes, I run a team maybe on you have bloated headcount, but nothing's going to replace good design. Nothing's going to replace like human interaction or that quality. And I think that's what we're up against. And we're up against decisions being made for us by people who don't live it daily. And I think we'll go full circle. Like we've seen, like how many layoffs were there last week of companies?
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous amounts. And I've seen some really good marketing talent on the market in the last 2 weeks. It's like boggles my mind. But I think it'll go full circle. We were here about 3-4 years ago. I remember everybody was going for efficiency. Everyone went and hired again. And I think that's the same thing we're going to see in the next year. I think we're all going to cut back, and everyone's going to realize they need those roles.
It is so funny that in that time period, we're seeing, as you kind of said, old is new again. People are going to events again, but it's not, RSA is great, but they're going to the smaller events. They're going to the events that are more niche, that are going to be more useful to them because they have a smaller budget. So they realize, hey, go where you're actually going to be in front of people.
Exactly. Like I don't even invest in the big ones anymore. And then those who are investing are doing these outside events. And it's brand. They're not investing for ROI. Those are pure brand plays. I still think you need the good marketing, great product, strong value. And when you have all of that together, that's where the growth is. It can't be one or the other.
Those are words to live by right there. Hey, congratulations, Melissa. You have successfully navigated the cyber funnel. You feel like you're in a tornado all over the place?
I love it. Listen, this is kind of like, come on, Thor. This is like our calls when we're going through our keywords and stuff. I love this. I love it.
I think it was fantastic. I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you later.
I love it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Cyber Funnel Podcast. Tune in next time for more tips and insights, and be sure to click subscribe for future episode updates.